some real change.
Mm. So there's a whole host of actions that you are calling on activists across the country and people across the country to undertake to send a strong message. Talk to me about those.
So we are hoping to interrupt the business as usual, while on the day we are calling on all women and the LGBTQI plus community across South Africa. And that is most statistically, they are the most affected by gender-based violence. And that is why we're calling on them to withdraw from all paid and unpaid labor, either in their workplaces, homes, universities, even in public places as well. And this is ways, of course, for them to demonstrate to the economy as well as people emanate their power, social impact, and what could potentially happen if they are active in those places. We also want to have them partake in the 15 minutes of standstill that we have exactly 12 p.m. on the day, on the 21st. And this would be by laying down wherever they are, because we also understand, of course, that some people may be unable to work on the day. So there's other ways and other means of still partaking in the cause and in the campaign. They can wear black, be black on the day, and that is a way of honoring the women who lose their lives every single day in our country. But more importantly, we're also calling for them to sign our petition that is try and declare gender-based violence not to happen.
And how would that change the situation as a parting shot? How would that change the situation declaring it a national disaster as compared to the efforts that have already gone into it, including the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide? So, in a way, I'm inviting you to comment on the implementation of the plans and the laws that we have already.
Those frameworks that we have as South Africa and we've had be brilliant on paper and that have been existing in our country. Those promises that have come from our government, including the launch of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, already came about in 2019, at the end of 2019, early 2020, together with the 90-day acceleration that they then amplified afterwards to try as a response to fast-track the implementation of say what we're saying is we are 5 years into that plan because it was when it was launched 10 years ago, implemented plans to be implemented between 2020 and we are in 2025 now, and already halfway through the launch, there has been little to no concrete physical evidence to truly combat gender-based violence and femicide in the country. So we are trying to make South Africans aware of what is happening when it comes to this sort of legislation that they really do exist on paper, but they're not doing really much in terms of actually protecting the survivors of gender-based violence on a daily basis when they reach out together with other stakeholders in the gender-based violence field. We cross-reference everything that we do on a daily basis. We definitely can see that gap is visible and that no one in terms of government is actually paying attention to it, trying to fast track it. Yes,
Alrighty, and that was the context and the background behind this call for action that should be taking place on the 21st of November, being mobilized by the organization Women for Change. And they're one of South Africa's leading voices in the fight against gender-based violence and GBV, using the power and galvanizing the power of social media to raise awareness and, of course, to ensure that we all support survivors. So there's numerous ways that you can get behind them come Friday, the 21st of November, and that is literally as the G20 gathers at the heartbeat of Africa here in Johannesburg. They've called for all of us to not work, do not partake in paid or unpaid work, or observe the 15 minutes standstill by laying down wherever you are come 12 p.m. To honor the lives of the 15 women that are murdered every single day in South Africa. We'll keep track of this movement the closer it draws to the time, because I think GBV and the fight to curb GBV should be something that is topical in all of our lives, and it should definitely be something that we all throw our weight behind. It's 20 past 1 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Feel good.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November, 2025, at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register, and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
This November, SFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
And as the Freedom Charter says, no legitimate government could claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. And I think sometimes people forget that.
SFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi. The theme of the lecture is confronting inequality, corruption and unemployment, rebuilding South Africa's social contract for inclusive and sustainable growth. The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
All right, we are going to shift our focus a little bit now to all things health and wellness. It is a Tuesday after all, and we tend to have these conversations on the show. And we're understanding diabetes in South Africa. How do we prevent it? How do we manage it? And how do we best support friends and family that have been diagnosed with diabetes? November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and it's an important time for us to highlight some of these themes around the disease. We are talking now to Dr. Becky Hole, who is a specialist physician and pulmonologist. How are you doing this afternoon, Dr. Becky?
I'm doing great, Bridget. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, a very important time, not only for diabetics, but also for every South African, really, because for what we know, according to the stats, by and large, diabetes is a silent killer in South Africa.
It is definitely a silent killer, Bridget. You don't get overt symptoms and signs that will give you an impression that you have diabetes. Very difficult what to look to know and get tested and then on treatment for the disease.
And considering that diabetes affects millions of people globally, some of the things that we should be focused on in conversation this November would be around what themes?
Around what theme?
Some of what we should be focusing on for Awareness Month, in your professional opinion, would be what?
So this month we're focusing on diabetes. We're also focusing on lung health. I think later on we focus on something called antimicrobial stewardship, which is just not overusing antibiotics willy-nilly because they have a deleterious later on in life. So those are what we're currently looking into the health.
Okay. What are the drivers, Doc, the drivers in the rise of diabetes in South Africa? Because we have noted an uptake in diabetic patients.
So it's a combination of lifestyle factors and socioeconomic inequalities, which include obesity and also physical inactivity. So what we can personally do is look out and try to avoid obesity in the community and change our lifestyle and improve our physical activity to try and stop the rise of diabetes. Unfortunately, for some people, it's in families. So if your family members have been diagnosed with diabetes or are living with diabetes, you are at a higher risk, whether you are obese or not. So we should look at knowing your family health, knowing who has what illness in your family, knowing how to protect yourself from getting a similar disease in the future.
Mm. It's often such well, at least for me, it always seems like a tricky one, right? In my observation, when we talk diabetes, and we look at, for instance, obesity being one of the telltale worrying signs, is the fact that we have this social culture as Africans that the bigger the better, where we appreciate a certain voluptuousness in people, a certain uh, physicality. We sort of celebrate it as Africans. How do we begin to change that mindset to say perhaps it's not the healthiest way?
I think for some people, you can't change the voluptuousness because of genetic and physical attributes that are not necessarily associated with fat.
Mm,
So just because someone is voluptuous does not necessarily mean they have a high fat content in their body.
hmm
But as long as you encourage everybody to improve their physical activity so that the bulk of your voluptuousness is not fat and is more muscle,
hmm
you are on the right track because everybody has their own preference and a lot of people might prefer to look a certain way. That does not necessarily confer good physical health. So physical activity should be encouraged to everyone.
Mm. And by way of improving screening, how do we get more people to go and test for diabetes? And I don't know what is the barrier that makes folks not actually want to go get tested.
The biggest problem is the fact that some people don't associate the symptoms that they're feeling with the disease.
Hmm
For instance, one of the commonest symptoms of diabetes is excessive thirst and wanting to drink a lot of water, which then leads you to drink a lot of water,
Mm.
which then leads you to pass a lot more urine than people normally would. But we always think, oh, it's a bit hot. I'm just a little bit thirsty. I'm just drinking a lot more water. And people say things like, I just like water. And then they associate the urination with the fact that they drink a lot of water.
Mm.
So it's a bit difficult to then say that's an illness, going get checked. So if anybody notices an increase in the amount of urine that they're passing and the amount of water that they want to drink, they should get checked. And getting checked, you can walk into a check, you can walk into a discount that has a nurse, you can go to GP, you
Mm.
can go to your local clinic. So there's a wide range of places where you can go and get tested. And I think we just need to be vigilant and try to find out whether we have any other lifestyle illnesses, including diabetes, at
Mhm.
any given point in time. Like yearly, should be getting tested, finding out where you stand.
Yeah. Dr. Khule, I wish we had more time to engage the conversation, but it's been a good reminder for our listeners to just go out there and get themselves tested. And if you do get diagnosed with diabetes, then you just need to do a little bit of research by way of how do you manage this diagnosis. It's just gone 1:30. It is time for us to catch up with Ondela in the news.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batohi, has acknowledged that cases related to state capture have not been prosecuted sufficiently. Retired EMPD Deputy Chief Rivo Spies says the vetting process of EMPD members was stopped after suspended EMPD Deputy Chief Julius Mkwanazi and nearly 200 officers refused to have their fingerprints taken. And the two AKA murder suspects have been moved in a heavily armed convoy from Durban's King Shaka International Airport to the Durban Central Police Station. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Stages, pages, screens, and more on the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
We'll double back to the mayor's walkabout in a little bit. I see he's doing a walkabout on SABC News live from Johannesburg CBD right now. It's the first time I saw EPW employees in Four Ways this morning. They were busy. Where they were busy doing the. I've never seen them there before, so they were there. Anyway, it is time for us to catch up with Angela Jung, now founder of the Impilo Collection Foundation. And from Everest to Constitution Hill, Impilo is launching 8,849 bras. This is the exhibition to confront gender-based violence. And Angela was in studio with us a couple of months ago talking around Impilo and this initiative. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good in yourself, Bridget.
I'm great. Thank you so much. And thank you for the time. Just for our listeners who may have missed our initial conversation, a bit of background and context around Impilo.
Yes, so in Peru, we started during COVID. Seeing people are suffering, and we just started our food drive and asking people around us on social media, friends and family. We collected 10 tons of food. So that's actually what we started Action five to do. Later on, we received 1 ton of sanitary pads. One of the girls in the special school, she actually came up to me, Aunt Angela, next time when you come, please bring some bra. So that's how I realized they're not wearing a bra. The perpetrators see that as an invitation of sexual things. That's the GBV.
Yeah.
So we start to really go into the root of that. We initially I was going to collect 2,000 bras, but I realized that there was 2,700 violence. And later, we received 6,200 bras. That's why we laid them out at the Constitutional Hearing by the Women's Child. Came in a memorandum to the government, to the Department of Safety.
Yeah.
And like you say, I just came there from Everest. Every meeting that I climb, I ask for a donation for one bra. And now we've got to 8,879 bras. That's equivalent to the height of Everest, 2,849.
Yeah. Angela, let's talk a little bit also about the impact of this initiative by the Impilo Collection Foundation, because at the end of the day, there are real women and real girl children that are not only the beneficiary of your efforts and those who support your organization, but also who've lived through the harrowing ordeals of GBV, of femicide, of abuse, sexual abuse in their households and in their communities.
Exactly, exactly. So it's important actually going there. So this time when we have this exhibition, it's actually really just to give the voice of women who've been silent. And we have panel discussions of people who come in, from psychologists, from victims of actually men victims, and not just women as well. So I think people who laugh at the men is they're actually abused. So there is the humanity. So that's really wanted to give people voice and to come in and touch what they're going to do as individuals for gender-based
And a very important conversation this, because as you ask, the question is what do we do as individuals to turn the tide around when it comes to gender-based violence and femicide, because South Africa holds one of the highest numbers of GBV in the world, one of the highest rates of GBV in the world. And really organizations like yourself are holding up a mirror to greater society to say, how do you as an individual begin to be the change that needs to be affected in society?
Exactly. It's really down to one individual, and then you the next person, and the next person helps the next. Harder is like the ripple effect that we can actually do by, giving back the dignity
Mm, mm.
of the survivors.
Yeah. So you've got the exhibition. This is the culmination of all your efforts. You have the exhibition opening on the 26th of November at Constitution Hill, and it's running right up until the 10th of December, smack bam during the 16 days of activism. What are you hoping will be achieved with this symbolism?
Yes. So what we actually hoping to do is first for the victims and also get some very specific panelists to come in to actually discuss what can we do forward. And like I said, going down to individuals, what are they going to touch to actually? And after the 16 days, we're going to cut and label each of the draw,
Mm,
and we ask people, like we call them social warriors,
yeah.
to come out us to cut and label each individual draw. And we going to deliver and distribute it all 9 provinces because we have almost 9,000 jobs. So
Mm,
each province is going to have 1,000 jobs. So we really hope corporate will come in to help us deliver those jobs, deliver back the dignity to our country.
absolutely. Well,
Mm.
we appreciate the social angels like yourself who are out there doing the hard work that maybe greater South Africans don't often carve out the time to do. Thank you so much for the time. That was Angela Jung, founder of the Mbila Collection Foundation, and that exhibition is opening on the 26th of November and is closing on the 10th of December. It is deliberately so during the 16 days of activism to also just help in magnifying that message and ensuring that it really carries out to every corner of the country. There's so many organizations all over that are doing their bit, whether we are talking Impilo, whether we are talking Women for Change, whom we were touching base on earlier on the show, who also are calling for us to be active and to be the voice of the voiceless come the 21st of November by taking part in one of the various ways of protest action that they have laid out for. And people always go, well, what can I do? Sometimes it really just is about applying social pressure and applying it consistently and without letting up in order to ensure that those in leadership positions not only just write great policies and write great plans, but actually implement. And it's about keeping that pressure on them. The young people saying pressure on neck. And it's about doing exactly that, keeping the pressure on them to ensure that they do what they've promised to do. It is 20 to 2 o'clock. We're going to get into Kids Corner and then we'll come back on the other side. Have you ever seen Joburg so clean? I don't know about the other cities. I don't know what they're looking like. I know Cape Town's always clean, but I don't know what the other cities are looking like. But I have never seen Joburg so clean, ever, ever. Joburg is looking really clean. Fourways even got an injection of I don't know how many thousands of trees that they've planted all over Fourways, and they're still planting to beautify Fourways. Oh, siyabonga G20. We'll be back on the other side.
Extraordinary is built on innovation, and Vodacom Business is leading the way. Cloud that scales with your business, security that earns trust, AI for smarter, faster decisions, IoT that connects systems and people, and connectivity that bridges every gap. With these technologies working together, Vodacom Business is helping to build a better connected, future-ready South Africa. Visit vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business. Further together.
This Monday evening at 7 on My Design Rules. It's all about comfort and style as the duos take on The Lounge. With a fully open plan living area to work with, they'll have to design with intention if they want to bring the kitchen, dining, and lounge together into one cohesive space. And each week is one step closer to the grand prize of up to 600,000 Rand in cash. That's Monday evening at 7, repeat Saturday at 2, and Sunday at 4 p.m. Only on S3.
So, we're inviting you to our third annual public lecture. It's going to be delivered by the Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser Moligeti. The lecture is taking place on the 27th of November at the Indaba Hotel Spa and Conference Center in Four West Johannesburg. And the theme is confronting inequality, corruption, and unemployment, rebuilding South Africa's social contract for inclusive and sustainable growth. If you want to come through, all you have to do is RSVP via our email, rsvp@safm.co.za.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, friends, and welcome to our Tuesday edition of Kids Corner. I hope you're having a great day and feeling proud of where you come from. Today, let's talk about the places we spend most of our time, our schools and neighborhoods. What makes your school or neighborhood a good place to live? What do you like most about it? If you could change one thing to make it even better, what would it be? And why do you think it's important to take care of the places where we live and go to school? Every one of us can make our surroundings a little brighter and kinder just by caring, helping, and showing love for the places that shape who we are. Now let's hear from some of our friends while you share your answers with the people next to you.
Hi, my name is Danny Cooper. My neighborhood is a good place to live in because some people just get along very well and our neighbors treat each other like family. What I like most about my neighborhood is that it's mostly quiet and there's not much gang violence going on. A change I would like to make would be to bring everyone together and for everyone to work together as a team to better our community. It's important to take care of the place you live and school because it shows respect for the environment. And at school, it makes it a much better learning environment. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Kabambai. What I love about my school and neighborhood is that it is filled with people who care about each other. My school gives me a chance to learn, grow, and make new friends, while my neighborhood feels like a community where people look out for one another. I really like the teamwork and friendliness I see every day. If I could change one thing, I'd make sure there were more trees, flowers, and safe spaces for kids to play or study outside. It's important to take care of our school and neighborhoods because when we do, it stays clean, safe, and welcoming for everyone who lives there or studies there.
Greetings everyone, my name is Yolanda Mzobe. I am 12 years old. What makes my school a good place to live? They help you see your own mistakes and helps develop confidence. What I like most about my school, we all respect each other and treat each other as brothers and sisters, and they teach us moral lessons and make us more educated. If I could change one thing to make my school even better, I will say there is no fighting because almost every day there are fights in some schools, even my school. I think it is important to take care of the place where you live and go to school because it's important to take care of the places where we live and learn for variety and reasons, encompassing personal well-being, the health of our community, and sustainability of our environment. Thank you, everyone.
Good day, friends. My name is Prophetic Kende Eza, and I'm 11 years old and I'm learning Proctor Public School. The thing that makes my school or neighborhood a good place to live is it allowing me to be there. For example, me staying at school, not getting harmed, meaning it's a good place to stay. And me staying where I live and not getting harmed, it's a good place to stay. So, yeah. The thing I like about the most about my school is that it teaches, aka bringing education into my mind. My neighborhood, it enables me to live. It gives me a place where to stay, and I have friends from there that make me comfortable. One thing I could have to make my neighborhood or school even better is I can help to put peace. That one thing I want to change is I want peace. There must be peace there so that there will not be deaths anymore. The reason I think it's good to take care of the place where I live or go to school is it will give a good environment not only to myself but also to the visitors that are away. Thank you.
My name is Nzelo Mishwana and I'm 8 years old. My neighborhood is a good place to live in because the people are nice and friendly. My school is a good place because it has a beautiful playground. I love my friend and teacher the most because she is a nice person. If I could change anything about my neighborhood, I would make the road in front of my house without any cost so that I can play on it all the time. It is important to take care of our neighborhood and school so that it's clean and nice to live in.
I do have friends in the neighborhood that I play with. We play in the complex park most of the time. We only walk on the road. We don't play on the road. We always play touch, hide and seek, and monster tag. If I don't play with my friends, I play board games with my family or I draw in my bedroom.
Yes, I do have friends in my neighborhood. We mostly play in our yard because there is a small hill for us to ride our bicycles on. Sometimes we do play in the streets. I play with my nearby neighbors. We have been best friends since we were all 6 years old. And also, when we play on the streets, we also have adult supervision. We play different kinds of games such as rock, paper, scissors, hopscotch, snakes and ladders, Monopoly, touch, and hide and seek. Thank you.
Yes, I do have friends in my neighborhood, and we mostly play in the house, but we also do play in the yard. We play like drama scenarios like that we see on TV, maybe like High School Musical or just Netflix drama stories. Or sometimes we just make up our own. And it's so much fun because there's so many of us and we can act as different people.
Thank you, friends. It's always great to hear from you. Today, let's talk about something truly special: the places that help shape who we are, our schools and neighborhoods. These are the heartbeats of our daily lives, where we learn new things, make friends, dream big, and grow into kind and caring people. Your school is more than just a place with classrooms and books. It's your second home. It's where you spend most of your day learning, discovering your strengths, and finding your passions. Every teacher, classmate, and lesson helps you build confidence and character. Schools that have clean classrooms, well-kept playgrounds, and a spirit of teamwork become places where every child feels welcome and inspired. Meanwhile, your neighborhood is the wider community that surrounds you. It's the streets you walk on, the parks you play in, and the neighbor you greet with a smile. A great neighborhood is not just about pretty houses, it's about people who care for each other. When neighbors respect one another, keep their surroundings clean, and support each other in good and tough times, the community becomes safer, friendlier, and full of love. Think about what makes your school or neighborhood special. Maybe it's the kind teachers who encourage you to do your best, the playground where laughter fills the air, or the neighbors who always help one another. All these little things create a big feeling, a sense of belonging. Now imagine if you could even make it better. What would you do? Perhaps you'd start a school recycling project, plant trees or flowers, create a garden, or organize a fun community cleanup day. You could also suggest activities that bring people together, like a reading corner for kids, a sports day, or a cultural celebration where everyone shares food, music, and stories from their backgrounds. Taking care of your school and neighborhood shows respect and responsibility. When we avoid littering, help someone in need, protect trees, and treat others kindly, we make the world around us shine brighter. Every small action, even picking up one piece of trash, makes a difference. So, friends, remember, a strong, happy community begins with you. Be the person who helps, who smiles, who cares, and who takes pride in their surroundings. When you love and protect your school and neighborhood, you make them feel safe, joyful, and full of life for everyone. Together, let's build schools and neighborhoods that sparkle with kindness, pride, and unity. Because when we care for our community takes care of us too. That's it for today, friends. See you next time.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. This November, SAFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
And as the Freedom Charter says, no legitimate government could claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. And I think sometimes people forget that.
SAFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi. The theme of the lecture is Confronting Inequality, Corruption and Unemployment, Rebuilding South Africa's Social Contract for Inclusive and Sustainable Growth. The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Fourways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM 104 to 107, nationwide.
Africa. Listen to your music, Africa. Listen to the trumpet, Africa. Listen to the rhythm, Africa. Let the music break on. Enjoy it. Lose yourself in rhythm and front it. Choosing all the wise words, just feel them chatting up your spirit and keep them
It is Jonas Bobo coming through with Ma Africa, leading us to the top of the hour. Onda Lambana is coming through with your 2 o'clock news, and then we'll come back on the other side of news and probably dip into that ad hoc committee that is currently sitting in Cape Town.
Thank you, Bridget. On the top stories, EMPD's Deputy Chief of Police placed on suspension and temporary road closures around Nasrec. For SFM News, I am on Delambana, and a very good day. In news just in, the city of Ekurhuleni says Deputy Chief of Police Julius Mkhwanazi has been placed on suspension effective from today. This follows the recommendations of an internal audit investigation into allegations of misconduct. The city of Ekurhuleni says formal disciplinary proceedings will now follow in line with applicable labor laws and municipal regulations. The moves come after serious allegations of his involvement in criminal emerged at the Madlanga Commission recently. Meanwhile, retired EMPD Deputy Chief Rivo Spies says the vetting process of EMPD members was stopped after Mkwanazi and nearly 200 officers refused to have their fingerprints taken. These were officers of the Specialized Services Unit headed by Mkwanazi. Spies, who is testifying before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, says an annual vetting process was instituted by suspended EMPD Chief Jabulani Mapiyeye in November 2021. This after it was discovered that EMPD members were only vetted upon recruitment and during the promotion process. Spies was testifying about a police executive committee meeting where Mkwanazi was also present.
We got to a stage where it's a year later now, and I was then tasked by Chief Mapie to give feedback on this specific status. Where in the project are we? The moment I started to give feedback, Brigadier Mokmanasi was sitting right opposite me, and he started to scream with even spit and froth that comes out of his mouth at me, where he was screaming extremely disrespectful towards me, screaming that he doesn't have a criminal record, and I'm saying he's got a criminal record. And I said to him, but I'm not saying you've got a criminal record. I'm giving feedback on the status of the fingerprints. What I do say is that your section didn't provide the fingerprints and they refused to provide the fingerprints. I'm not saying you have a criminal record.
The National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batohi, has acknowledged that cases related to state capture have not been prosecuted sufficiently. Batohi is testifying before the Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating allegations of corruption, criminality and political interference in the justice system. Batohi says there is a lot of good work the NPA has done, but some matters in state capture are still lacking.
Generally, the prosecuting authority is doing exceptionally well, but I can accept that there are areas where I had certainly hoped that at this time in my career we would have gone further than where we are, particularly investigating and prosecuting state capture matters and some other forms of high-profile corruption. And there are various reasons for that. I shouldn't say for prosecuting them, perhaps to have, because many cases are in court. But getting through a court system to finality is something else, and I can talk more about that later if I'm asked.
The two AKA murder suspects have been moved in a heavily armed convoy from Durban's King Shaka International Airport to the Durban Central Police Station. The siblings, Siabonga and Malusi Ndimande, were extradited earlier today from Eswatini. Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate has described the Ndimande brothers as dangerous contract killers. It's expected that they will appear in the Durban Magistrate Court later today. The Johannesburg Metro Police Department has announced temporary road closures around Nasrec, south of Johannesburg, this Saturday. The closures, which will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., are part of traffic measures leading up to the G20 Leaders Summit to be held at the Nasrec Expo Centre later this month. Some of the affected routes will include parts of the M1, Nasrec and Renshaw Road, Eldorado Park Off-Ramp, Golden Highway, Soweto Highway and surrounding streets. Motorists are advised to use alternative routes such as Crisani Road, Main Reef Road, Crownwood Road, Soweto Highway, N17, Aerodrome Road and Adcock Ingram Road. JMPD spokesperson Olani Fihla says real-time update will be provided to guide road users.
Motorists are encouraged to plan ahead to allow additional traffic time and consider alternative routes where possible, and these measures are essential to enhance public safety, enforce traffic compliance, and support ongoing traffic law enforcement initiatives, including vehicle inspections and congestion management. Clear signage, traffic officers, and real-time updates will be provided to guide road users, and access for emergency and essential services will be always prioritized.
Recapping the top story, the city of Ekurhuleni says Deputy Chief of Police Julius Mkwanazi has been placed on suspension effective from today. This follows the recommendations of an internal audit investigation into allegations of misconduct. I'm Mondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 2:30.
You could spend 10 minutes trying to fix the office printer, or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 65-year-old Helena, who now pays an incredibly low 398 Rand a month for her 2025 Hyundai Exter. With Outsurance, you get the legendary Out Bonus that pays you a percentage of your premiums back if you're claim-free. SMS out to 30754. After switching, 48-year-old Felicity now pays only 836 Rand a month for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson. Outsurance will either save you money on your car insurance or give you cash. If Outsurance can't beat what you're currently paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Ish, at school I was falling behind. They thought I wasn't trying, bruh. Truth is, I couldn't see well, and I felt as small as the words on the board. And then, teacher came to sit with me and realized I needed glasses. Bruh, now everything's changed.
Take time to listen. With enough love and support, children don't just catch up, they thrive.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Together, we can change their future.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Streaming Scheme Sum on the way to class.
Catching the Premier League while waiting for your order.
Jamming to Metro FM before you even get out of bed.
On SABC Plus, sinayo yonke into ifunayo. Your shows, your music, your way, anytime, anywhere. Zero subscription fees.
On your phone, tablet, or smart TV.
Download SABC Plus on iOS or Google Play Store.
You could spend 10 minutes waiting for that file to download. Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For his 2024 Ford Ranger, 57-year-old Andy now pays only 1,083 Rand a month. And for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson, 48-year-old Felicity pays just 836 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
This November, SAFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
And as the Freedom Charter says, no legitimate government could claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. And I think sometimes people forget that.
SAFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi. The theme of the lecture is confronting inequality, corruption and unemployment, rebuilding South Africa's social contract for inclusive and sustainable growth. The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Fourways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating Strategic, Multi-Sectoral Partnerships for a Disability-Inclusive Society. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those with disabilities. Our efforts towards a better life for those with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2025 on SAFM 104 to 107 FM. nationwide, leading the conversations that move us.
Afternoon Express is proud to be nominated in multiple categories at the 3rd Annual National Film and TV Awards taking place on Saturday, the 22nd of November. And you can add your voice by voting. Visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register and vote for Afternoon Express in the Best Entertainment Show category, Palisa Tembe for Best TV Presenter, and myself, Ayanda Jitabete, for Best Female TV Personality and Celebrity Personality of the Year. Voting closes on the 20th of November at midday.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. Bridget Masinga, weekdays on the Full Circle.
So the lunchtime hour is done and dusted now, and everything is back to normal in as far as that ad hoc committee is concerned. We think we're going to dip into Cape Town and see what the advocate is revealing there. There's been some discussion for the greater part of the morning around some names that need to be revealed, and the debate was whether or not she should disclose them, and whether or not that sharing should be done perhaps in a closed session and not in front of camera, as there are some sensitivities around some of these matters. So let's go back to that live session with the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batoy, who is appearing in front of the ad hoc committee.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members. Edward Batoy. Yeah, the second issue relates to the accountability of IDEC, and in particular the head of IDEC, which arose accountability of IDEC, and in particular the head of IDEC, which arose during the evidence of Advocate Johnson, the head of IDEC. You deal with it from paragraphs 52 onwards. We know, well, there's certainly, it seems as if that's the proposed legislation, makes provision for the appointment of an independent judge, Judge Ralinga, who has been IDEC, and in particular the head of IDEC, which arose during the evidence of Advocate Johnson, the head of IDEC. You deal with it from paragraphs 52 onwards. We know, well, there's certainly, it seems as if that's the proposed legislation, makes provision for the appointment of an independent judge, Judge Ralinga, who has been appointed. But what is the current position there, and what has been the position prior to his appointment?
Honorable Chair, the appointment of the judge in terms of the NPA Act was provided for as a complaints mechanism for IDAC staff. They can complain. The judge will investigate complaints made against IDAC staff or even by IDAC staff where their work is being interfered with. So, but as this House knows, that those relevant sections have not yet been put into operation, and it is something that the Department of Justice is working on in order to ensure that the Act is brought into operation. But even though this is the case, the Public Service Act and the Public Service Regulations still apply to members of IDAC in terms of any disciplinary processes relating to complaints that may be lodged against members. So just to say that there's no gap in terms of if there is a complaint, nothing will be done. The matter will be investigated in terms of those provisions. But all the IDAC herself, of course, being a DPP, the coming into the operation of the Act doesn't even matter. If there's a complaint against the IDAC herself, then of course, being a presidential appointment, there could be an investigation in terms of our OEA, and potentially, if the evidence supports it, then a recommendation to the president. But that is the legal framework at the moment to deal with complaints against IDAC staff members.
So, because this was also a criticism which I'm sure might be taken or explored further by honourable members. So there's no mechanism currently, independent third-party mechanism to ensure accountability and oversight. It's still in-house.
Until those regulations are promulgated, yes, it is currently the Public Service Act and regulations will apply.
And the criticism which you will understand is that this is not a satisfactory state of affairs.
I want to agree. I mean, in a constitutional democracy, when an institution like the IDAC has the powers that it has, none of us as citizens want to be on the wrong side where IDAC acts improperly or not in terms of their mandate, and we as citizens are affected by that. So I agree that the mechanism needs to be promulgated as fast as possible, put into operation rather, as fast as possible. But in the meantime, I can give the assurance that if there are any complaints against IDAC staff, they will be properly investigated, as are complaints against any NPA member. We investigate and make sure that there's consequences. But the appointment of a judge will actually give a higher and better complaints mechanism to ensure that IDAC acts properly within its mandate.
Thank you, Edwin Patoy. My last issue relates to bail, the granting of bail. And the reason why I raise it with you and giving you an opportunity to discuss it with the honourable committee is the criticism of former Minister Cele, who maintains that hard-working, honest police officials are often let down, disappointed. They end up even being killed because what he describes as dangerous criminals. Presumably is also referring to accused of dangerous crimes, murder, rape, robbery, being let out on bail, and then continuing to conduct a reign of terror. Is there a policy? We know that bail is granted by the presiding magistrate or judge. Where does the prosecution fit into this picture?
So the purpose of bail is to, as you know, secure the attendance of an accused person before court. And a prosecutor can object to bail in circumstances where the accused person is either a flight risk or will interfere with investigations. And I should say that in some instances where bail is granted, hardworking, honest prosecutors feel equally aggrieved as police investigators, because especially if we are objecting to bail, and more often than not, if a police investigator advises the prosecutor that bail should be objected to, it's very rare that a prosecutor will not object to bail, because it's the police investigator that must give the evidence to object to bail. And if the evidence is there, we would generally object to bail. And of course, how this regime can be strengthened. But that is the position with regard to the granting of bail.
The default position is that you're entitled to be granted bail, subject obviously to meeting certain conditions, flight risk, attendance at court, etc., unless it's in the interest of justice not to grant bail. But that involves the prosecution leading evidence that it's not in the interest of justice to do so, and it obviously depends mostly on the investigating officer to either lead that or deduce that evidence or through other witnesses.
That's absolutely correct.
And then you have the extreme cases, the Schedule 5 and 6 offences, I think, where the accused, they have to show exceptional circumstances where they should be granted bail. So there's a bit of a reverse onus.
That's correct.
But notwithstanding that, you still find Schedule 5, Schedule 6 alleged offenders getting bail.
As I said, evidence is presented before the courts. And, the stronger the evidence that the police present to the prosecutor, we'll be able to present that evidence. And where in circumstances where we find that the magistrate or judge got it wrong, we will appeal against it. And that has happened as well. But those are the only remedies that we have.
I think the reason why this issue arises and why I'm asking you about it today also is that's again a potential weakness in this chain where it's susceptible to bribery and corruption, and sometimes the reasons are just inexplicable why an accused is getting bail, given the nature of the offense, given the evidence being led by the investigating officer.
You're absolutely right. And, so we got to strike the balance between a person's right to freedom and, of course, the necessity to ensure that crime is properly prosecuted and those that are accused are held accountable. And so perhaps the amendment process to the Criminal Procedure Act might strengthen that. But currently, that is the legal framework within which we operate. And as I said, where we believe that the decision was wrong, we appeal those decisions. But sometimes it's not that clear.
Thank you very much, Edward Patoy. Thank you, Honourable Chair. That concludes my section of leading evidence.
This is very, very beautiful. You should have warned me that you are only going to take 20 minutes after lunch. I doubt if honorable members, are you ready? Are you sure? I've said to you that we only have one day because tomorrow we have the medium-term budget policy statement. So full member, I'm allocating 30 minutes. Alternate, I'm allocating 10 minutes. And the time is inclusive of the responses. So at 2:30, it's now 25 minutes past 2. Honorable Ngola and Honorable Sokanyile, you are starting at 2:30. Your time ends at 10 minutes past 3. And Honorable Shongwe and Honorable Nomvalo, your time starts at 10 minutes past 3 and ends at 10 minutes to 4. Did you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. And you know the rules about time. Ne?
And you start immediately.
You show respect to fellow members by the manner in which you respect time. When your time is up, it is up. No negotiations. You can't extend time. You can extend many things, but it's not possible to extend a second or a minute.
Yeah. Can't you start immediately?
Yeah, I'm saying the clock will start ticking at 14:30.
Right. Not now.
I can't hear what Honorable Breitenbach is saying behind you because her microphone is not on.
We all want to start right now. We don't need to wait 3 minutes.
Okay. You want him to start immediately?
He's ready for the first time in his life. He's ready. Let him go.
Okay. Can we start? Thank you so much, Honorable Buteles. Thank you so much.
It's God.
Can we start, Honorable Ngola? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And
Che, we have that problem of MK again. They are out. We don't know if they will come back or what. I don't know.
highly possible that they've been changed. So let's be patient.
The Honorable Skosana, you might have seen him. He came to me to say, no, I will be back. Chairperson, I'm not leaving. So I just assume that those other members have some pressures that they have to deal with. They should come back immediately. If we have to use it in its appropriate context. Okay, Honorable Ngola.
Thank you very much, Chair. 1212, Chair, but if time is against me, I know you will humbly borrow me 10 minutes from your time. Thank you very much, Chair. NTPP, good afternoon. I know that when you are doing what we called then the attorney's board examination, we had a specific module on ethics. I know when you do a master of laws, you do an ethical clearance application. So that whenever you want to move on your research, you are ethically cleared. I'm not quite sure when you do a pupillage if there is a particular module specifically training prospective legal practitioners to focus on or this expected ethical standard from legal practitioners. Is there one?
So, Chair, through you, is Honourable Member Honourable Ngola referring to in the NPA?
No.
Generally.
I'm talking about, I spoke about attorneys in general. So I'm up because I've never been involved in the pupillage curriculum. So I'm talking about, is there a module that specifically trains advocates on ethical standards expected of advocates of the High Court of South Africa?
I have to be honest, Chair, I don't know, but I certainly hope that there is.
Okay. Fortunately, we've got about 6-7 advocates in the room. They may later help because I'm asking this particularly because the head of IDEC Advocate Andrea Johnson considered before this committee that she has been part of a recruitment panel that has actually employed her husband. Do you think that is that conduct ethically and legally correct?
I have to agree. On the face of it, it is very bad error of judgment. She should not have been on that panel. She agreed before this house as well that that was not something she should have done. And I agree with that. If your husband is on a potential candidate, you should not be on a panel. Although she explained the steps that she took to make sure that she wasn't part of his interview, but still, I think I agree, it was a bad error of judgment. I've only just received the information last week, and I'll look into it and see whether that was appropriate conduct, if there's anything that needs to be done about it. This was 20 years ago or so. She was a young prosecutor at the time, but it's certainly something that will need to be looked at because on the face of it, it's a really bad error of judgment. She should not have been on that panel.
Thank you. General Kumalo, amongst other charges that he's facing, is a matter relating to an employment of a brigadier or an SAPS official. Amongst the issues that which have made IDEC or motivated IDEC to arrest General Kumalo is that particular matter. Do you think that Advocate Andrea Johnson should suffer the same consequences?
I don't know the details of the case involving the IDAC case, but what I can say is that context is sometimes everything, and one has to look at the evidence, the circumstances, the context of each case before you can decide whether the consequences should be the same or not.
So is it the evidence of the NTPP that until date, she has never received any form of update in respect of the IDEC case against General Dumisani Kumalo?
Can you please repeat that?
I'm saying, is it the evidence of the NTPP that until this date, she has never received an update or a report in relation to the case of IDEC against the head of crime intelligence, Lieutenant General Kumalo?
Thank you, Honorable Member. No, through you, Chair, that's not the case. I have certainly received high-level reports on this case prior to the arrest. That is the position.
Okay, let's start on prior the arrest. An adult male from Parliament goes to IDEC and alleges that they have got an intelligence information which they picked up from the doorstep, but does not bring that information, but bring the word of mouth that I picked up this, and then I'm going to do an affidavit with you explaining it. Then that informs the basis of the arrest of General Kumalo. So was it supposed to happen like that, or how does it naturally become procedurally correct?
So, through you, Chair, to Honorable Member, the IDAC has certain processes which Andrea Johnson explained to this House. I'm not involved in those processes. But of course, the start of the process was the referral by one of the honorable members of this House. But after that, I'm not aware of the precise nature of those processes, except that I do know there's a preliminary investigation and there's potentially an investigation that will be authorized. But the IDAC has its internal processes to assess the evidence at each stage.
So you don't have the details of a case between an investigative directorate against corruption, which falls within the ambit of NPA, against the head of crime intelligence in the country?
That's correct. I don't have the details. As I explained earlier, the NPA, the national director, is a review mechanism. I don't have the details of the case. And if General Kumalo or anyone else is aggrieved about that decision to prosecute, as I outlined earlier, they are at liberty to refer the matter, to bring a representation to the National Director to consider that matter and then decide whether the decision of the IDAC head was correct or not.
Can I come to IDEC to lay a complaint against whoever? And unless that I've got in position, I am in possession of classified information, intelligence information, and I don't have a clearance certificate to handle classified intelligence information. Will IDEC be legally in correct parameters to attend to such a case?
IDAC's mandate is to investigate crime. And in my view, if IDAC gets evidence of criminality, they have an obligation to investigate it. The other side of it is the legality, etc., can be disputed at a later stage. But I would think that IDAC's mandate requires it to investigate cases as such.
Oh, okay, maybe let's move on this one. Can a labor recruitment process of any institution become a criminal trial against anyone who was part of a panel or was part of a interview selection panel and all that? Can it be a criminal case?
Honourable Member, I have what Advocate Johnson mentioned in this House, that the way state capture happened was that critical people were recruited and replaced, many boards, etc. And in the granting of tenders, specific people are appointed to specific positions. That was her evidence. And I don't know what the evidence is surrounding just the recruitment. She also said that this was part of several other matters. And so, to answer your question crisply, it would depend on the evidence.
Okay. General Mkhwanazi appeared before the committee and narrated a story, a very sad story when you look at it from the face value. Now, there was a time when securing a warrant of arrest against an accused person was actually eminent. To an extent that the prosecutor did sign. So when it was to be taken to a magistrate, so a warrant of arrest is officially issued, that prosecutor received a call from the bosses. The bosses in this context would mean someone higher than him or her in the NP. Then later came back and said, I am withdrawing my signature on this because I don't want to lose my job. Now, part of what 3.1 of the terms of reference of this committee is to investigate collusion, whether there is collusion between state officials and crime syndicates. So have you noticed any form of collusion except that one that you don't want to mention his name yet? We are going to mention later. But have you noticed from 2019 until this date, as you're presiding over the prosecuting authority, any form of or characters or features or signs of collusion by the NPA officials and crime syndicates?
Honorable Chair, I can't say that I've noticed collusion between NPA and crime syndicates, NPA members and crime syndicates. But what I can say is the OEA has been getting reports of compromised prosecutors who are involved in criminal activity that is under investigation. But organized crime syndicates, I can't say that I have that information.
Okay. Let's step out of that. 6 July 2025, General Mkhwanazi takes it to the public and alleges that NPA is playing part in aiding criminal syndicates to evade justice. Then since then until now, before we called you to this committee, what internal mechanisms has the NDPP established to ensure the truthfulness or the untruthfulness of the allegations, and to ensure that there are systematic mechanisms that are actually will actually enable NPA to avoid such kind of things? Because you'll remember, between me and you, we know that there are part of the cases, big cases, that have directly damaged the image of the NPA. So this is adding to that. So what did the NDPP do in between this time? Because I would ask, because, well, for example, the Chief Justice did issue out looking for evidence and all those things, because judges, judiciary. So what were the steps taken by the leadership of the NPA in attending to the matter?
So, look, these processes are unfolding in the Madlanga Commission as well as in the ad hoc. Now, we've testified, the National Commissioner has testified. I discussed it with Advocate Johnson, and I will be writing to the National Commissioner to ask him to reveal that we want the names of those prosecutors that General Mkhwanazi alleges is involved in any kind of criminal activity, because this is something that we have to investigate. There were no names mentioned. I don't know that he was pressed to reveal names in this committee, but he didn't reveal them. I wish he did. Would have made it easier for us as well.
Actually, I was the first member to ask him questions, and the first thing I said was that, tell us names.
And he didn't.
He did, to a certain extent.
Okay, so
and passed others to General Kumar.
Chair, those are the names that we need, and I will be writing to the National Commissioner to get that information to make sure that's properly investigated. It's just that we need to time it, because there are these other inquiries that are going on, but it's an urgent matter that needs attention.
Okay, let's take it back to your conversation with the evidence leader of your sentiments on infiltration of the NPA, which when you were explaining it, you said there are people within the organization who do not have the interest of justice at heart. Did you mean what we are experiencing now, or you meant something completely different from what is accused by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi?
I meant something different, because you'll recall, Honorable Member, through you, Chair, that I made my comments before he did. And so I had no idea what he was going to be talking about. So they were not related.
Do you have internal mechanisms to detect and tackle corruption within the organization?
We have aspirant prosecutors go through a course. They go through ethical training as well. We have the Office of Ethics and Accountability that's been set up to be proactive in terms of and trying to create a culture of high standards of ethics, and as well as investigating thereafter reactively. We also have a hotline that any member of the public can make reports to, so that we can get the information regarding potentially unethical conduct by prosecutors.
Have you ever been invited to a meeting of the Interministerial Committee dealing with the political killings?
Sorry, Honorable Member, which meeting?
Meetings interministerial meetings dealing with political killings. You'll recall that PKTT is a born child of an interministerial committee where NPA is part of the PKTT.
Honorable Member, not that I can recall that I ever attended an interministerial committee meeting relating specifically to PKTT.
So you don't know how effective has NPA been in aiding the fight against political killings?
I have the statistics from the PKTT, and whether it's been effective or not, we have numbers, but we don't know the extent of this problem. But certainly, there are people that have been arrested and have been charged. So we have those figures.
How many political killings matters have been
I'll
prosecuted?
have to get those figures. I don't have them at hand, but
You
I
said
can get
you
them.
have.
Pardon me?
You said you have.
We have numbers. The NPA has numbers.
Okay. So as things stand, you don't know how many prosecutions out of the work of the PKTT and how many successful prosecutions out of the work of the PKTT NPA was part of.
I don't have those figures before me.
Okay. Can the NDPP later submit that information through writing? So on the PKTT dissolution, remember PKTT is a multidisciplinary team. On the dissolution of the PKTT, has there been an information sharing, consultation, briefing about the dissolution of the PKTT NPA is part of?
Chair, there's been no meeting with the police, not that I'm aware of, certainly not at national level. The National Commissioner did mention to me at some point that the minister had ordered that the PKTT be disbanded, but that it had not happened. But that was not really a consultation. It was a casual.
So you heard it from the corridors?
I think you could call it a corridor talk. Yeah.
You were on the way walking out of a tea room, then you were briefed.
Absolutely. That's the way it happened. It was an informal conversation.
Okay. On your affidavit, on paragraph 6.3, you make mention of the criminal justice value chain, which I think is one important aspect if we are to fight crime effectively. Now, the common knowledge is that SAPS becomes the first point of entry on in the criminal justice system. So to what extent and in what occasions does IDEC become the first point of entry in the criminal justice value chain?
That's in terms of referrals, in terms of the NPA Act.
Okay. That's fine. Let's talk about the reasonable prospects of a successful prosecution. Do we have internal norms and standards that govern or that determines to what extent, what kind of evidence and that? Or it solely rests with that particular individual prosecutor to take that decision, then it can be overturned later?
Our prosecution policy sets out criteria to be considered in determining whether the standard is met.
Okay. Is IDEC independent?
IDEC is part of the NPA, and the independence of the NPA is guaranteed in the Constitution. I would say the National Prosecuting Authority is not sufficiently independent in that its financial and operational independence still needs to be addressed. The minister has committed to dealing with this matter. I'm pleased she takes it very seriously, and this House, well, the Justice Committee, Portfolio Committee, has also dealt with this issue, and I'm hopeful. The minister has indicated that there will be legislation. This matter will be dealt with before the end of this financial year. It is very. It affects the operations and effectiveness of the NPA broadly, not to have its own accounting officer in many ways. And so that is why I say it's not sufficiently independent, because the DG of Justice is the accounting officer of the NPA.
So the independence would mean that the NDPP be the accounting officer of the NPA.
There are options. That's the SARS model. And in fact, the SAPS as well. The National Commissioner is the accounting officer. In SARS, the SARS Commissioner is the accounting officer. So that is an option. Or it's having a chief executive officer is also an option. Those things need to be determined by the minister.
So as part of your suggestion to Parliament is that let there be legislative amendments to strengthen the independence of IDEC and the NPA as a whole.
Absolutely. That is a suggestion to Parliament. And when the minister brings it to Parliament, as she has committed to, I certainly hope that there will be support from the committees to ensure that that happens.
Okay, because the terms of reference actually direct us to also investigate system failures. So that what we get from the testimonies actually inform how we move forward. We myself and you had got a very concerning situation of prosecutors being assassinated. Very worrying situation. Now, do these assassination of prosecutors suggest that it might be a work of some crime syndicates and stuff, trying to silence them on the basis of doing their work?
Is the Honourable Chair, is the Honourable Member saying within staff members? Did I understand the question correctly?
Let me repeat.
Thank you.
Myself and you have been for quite a long time been concerned by a growing assassination of prosecutors. And it turns out that in most cases, these assassinations are linked to the cases they're prosecuting. So does this mean that this is as a result of the work of the alleged crime syndicates trying to silence the prosecutors from doing their work? So
the short answer, Honourable Member, is certainly in the one case, it was people have been arrested, and it was clearly related to a case that the prosecutor was prosecuting involving organized criminals. In the other case, it is not clear whether it was directly linked, but that prosecutor was involved in prosecuting a bail application involving organized criminals. But no one's been arrested there, but certainly the circumstances suggest that it was a hit because nothing was taken. And you're right, it's a very serious and growing concern. In my 40 years of prosecuting, we've not been concerned about prosecutors being killed. Now we are living in and it demonstrates what's happening in this country. And prosecutors being killed is a new phenomenon. Sadly, we've had police officers that have been killed in the past, but more often for firearms, I would think most of the cases. But now targeting prosecutors for the work that they do, and whistleblowers and forensic investigators, is something that we as a country have to consider. And that is why I mentioned earlier when I was being led about whistleblower protection. We've asked for an increase in budget to protect prosecutors. These are expensive. It costs a lot of money. And you protect not just a prosecutor, you protect families. And it upsets your life. So it's a very serious issue that as a country, we need to look at how government needs to strengthen its protection mechanisms, also working with the private sector.
But has NPA done an internal assessment on the causal links on the assassination of prosecutors so that it helps you develop proper mechanisms to prevent that?
We've looked at the two recent cases and assessed and analyzed what happened there. even though one of the cases was clearly because of the work, we have put in place mechanisms to strengthen the safety of prosecutors, our security and risk team in the NPA. We've got mechanisms for them to react at very short notice to give immediate security to prosecutors who feel the threat immediately. But of course, there's a process, if it's not an immediate threat, to assess the risk and to make sure that we protect the right prosecutors. But we will not compromise on the safety of prosecutors. And we've also been engaging with our external partners, with the Canadian government, with our Society of State Advocates, to get trainers in to assist prosecutors to be more proactive, to protect themselves in circumstances and not put themselves out to additional risk.
So, out of all the prosecutors that were killed, there is only one case where the alleged perpetrators were arrested.
I think the short answer is yes. I hope I have that right. The short answer is yes. We had 2 prosecutors that were killed this year. And another prosecutor that was killed in what looked like a hit. It was probably about 2 years ago. But there have not been arrests in those matters. There's been arrests only in the one case.
But what are the bottlenecks? Because society expects, at least, that if a person is a police officer, is a prosecutor and stuff, expects that at least justice will quickly be done. But beyond that, as we attend with those families who lose their loved ones, we promise every time that we're going to prioritize this. The statements of NPA do promise that this matter will be prioritized, blah, 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 blah. So, but what are the bottlenecks so that if there is a way Parliament can meet halfway, we do that? What are the actual bottlenecks?
So, through you, Chair, this is a complication that we face with a lot of crimes, and one would expect, correctly so, not that other crimes are less serious, but when it is one of your own, that the police, the prosecutors work together and do everything possible to try to bring the perpetrators to book. What the challenges with investigating these matters is something I think that's better dealt with by the police. But clearly, whether we have more cameras installed, for example, in certain high risk areas, so that the evidence could become more readily available. I don't know, but it's about the difficulty of getting witnesses, getting evidence, and also people coming forward to testify. So I think the police are best placed to, really talk about the challenges with investigations. I don't know what the challenges in these particular cases have been, but it's a challenge we're facing in dealing with crime in this country generally.
How does all this affect the morale of your staff?
It sends shockwaves through the organization. And, to lose one of your own who's working hard for justice in this country. I went to the
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
On the top stories, EMPD's Deputy Chief of Police placed on suspension and 12 killed in explosion in Pakistan. For SAFM News, I'm Ondalambana and a very good afternoon. The city of Ekurhuleni says Deputy Chief of Police Julius Mkwanazi has been placed on suspension effective from today. This follows the recommendations of an internal audit investigation into allegations of misconduct. The city says formal disciplinary proceedings will now follow in line with applicable labor laws and municipal regulations. The move comes after serious allegations of his involvement in criminality emerged at the Madlanga Commission recently. Musa Mhlongo has more.
The city of Ekurhuleni says Mkhwanazi is suspended pending a formal disciplinary process. The city says this is only a precaution and does not mean he is guilty of anything. City manager Kagiso Rutla says testimony against Mkhwanazi coming out of the Madlanga Commission is disturbing and shows that there may be bigger problems inside the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. He says the city is now starting a wider investigation into the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department and will take action where needed. The city says the Metro Police services are continuing as normal under temporary leadership. Musa Mhlango, Johannesburg.
Retired Deputy Chief Revo Spies says that the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department has no access to national criminal databases, making it nearly impossible to monitor officers who commit crimes outside the city. Spies is testifying at the Madlanga Commission. He says the lack of integration with SAPS systems allows convicted or accused officers to remain on duty.
The systems doesn't speak to one another, and that is something that if we, for instance, want to take, if I want to check if my officer have a criminal record, I don't have any access to it at all. I cannot see it. The only manner I can do it is I take his fingerprints manually, I submit it to South African Police Service. I, as municipal police, must pay the South African Police Service either 85 or 180 rand as a government entity to South African Police Service to say, please check this fingerprints for me. They will take weeks and months to do it and then come back with a result to me. So I, as a police, municipal police, don't have access to criminal records of my officers.
The head of the National Prosecuting Authority, Advocate Shamila Batohi, has refused to disclose the name of a suspended prosecutor who is alleged to be working with criminal syndicates. Batohi is testifying before Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system. Batohi has requested to divulge the name in camera.
But even if the name is given to me now, I'm not going to make a comment about whether it is or isn't. It's not fair on the process. It's not fair on the person concerned. And this might turn out not to be true. We may not be able to verify this information. And then it destroys people's reputations and lives. And I think it will be hugely irresponsible for me at this stage, with just the bit of information that I have referred, to mention names in this house.
Agri-Western Cape says efforts are underway to contain and eradicate the spread in foot and mouth disease after an outbreak in the Goda area. The organization says the area around the outbreak is under quarantine. Last week, the Western Cape Veterinary Services placed 2 more properties with cattle, Veldrift and Bradasdorp under precautionary quarantine. Foot and mouth is a highly contagious disease that affects cloven-hoofed animals such as cattle. It does not affect humans. The authorities in Pakistan say at least 12 people have been killed in an explosion near a crowded courthouse in the capital. 27 others have been injured. Some are reported to be in a serious condition. The BBC's Caroline Davis has the details.
Footage filmed outside the court complex showed the remains of a burnt-out car, its windows blown away. Police have cordoned off the area. Pakistan's Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi visited the spot within hours of the explosion and spoke to local journalists. He's claimed that a suicide bomber was planning to attack the courthouse, but was unable to get inside, instead attacking a police vehicle outside the court complex. He said that the authorities will now prioritise identifying the bomber and that those involved will be brought to justice.
Recapping the top story, the city of Ekurhuleni says Deputy Chief of Police Julius Mkhwanazi has been placed on suspension effective from today. This follows the recommendations of an internal audit investigation into allegations of misconduct. I'm Ondela Bana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
In sports, the SAWA PSL revenue grows despite sharp drop in profits and 2 fans die on second day of ATP finals in Turin. More details at 3:30.
This November, SFM proudly presents the 3rd annual lecture.
And as the Freedom Charter says, no legitimate government could claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. And I think sometimes people forget that.
SFM invites you to our 3rd annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi. The theme of the lecture is Confronting Inequality, Corruption and Unemployment, Rebuilding South Africa's Social Contract for Inclusive and Sustainable Growth. The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAFM.
That's me in Fast Rough. How's it? Welcome to the show. It is the afternoon. What are we now? The 11th? The 11th of the 11th. I thought we'd done the 11th of the 11th. Why do I have deja vu that we did a thing on the 11th? Makes no sense to me. It's the National Pulse. How's it? Welcome to the show. Phone lines are open, WhatsApp lines are open, but we're going to go to the Madlanga Commission for this hour. The